So lately I've seen questions like, will Yao Guang or Sparxie be a must for the Elation flagship? Or who even is the main push for Elation? Well, that's what I'm here to cover today, as I do believe I have the Elation roadmap figured out, which will hopefully help you plan your polls. With the current information that's available, I do believe you can mess up your Elation polls. Basically another Sunday situation, and I really don't want to see that happen again. Now, I will have to be a bit more careful with the video, and it will just be things I've heard in passing, and what can be reasonably inferred, so definitely take it with a grain of salt. I don't want to be smited like Calm DG Cat, nor need to walk away like Hakushin. Rest in peace, both websites. With that said, let's get right into it. Starting off, the most important information I can provide right now is that I believe Sparxie and Yao Guang will not end up in the same team. Now, with the current calculations showing that Yao Guang is one of Sparxie's best in slot, I do believe that the final teams will not have them together. And that's a big issue, as if you decided to pull both of them, there's a chance that one of them will be completely useless for you, and thus we'll have another Sunday situation. Even so, I do believe both units are still must-pulls, just for their respective teams though. Now, how does one even come to such a conclusion? Well, this would be because of two pieces of information I heard a while back. Firstly, as the title suggests, there's going to be two Elation flagships. This means it's not going to be another Remembrance situation where we get a new path and only one dedicated team. No, two teams. Evanescia, Elation main DPS. SP Silverwolf, Elation main DPS. Now, with that alone, we still can't jump to the conclusion that I made. And that's where the second piece comes in. A while back, I heard this. SP Silverwolf will charge her ultimate when teammates get punchline. Okay, but wait, there's a second part. It doesn't count fixed punchline from an extra AHA. But wait, isn't that quite literally the main gimmick from Yao Guang? With this in mind, it's quite literally telling us SP Silverwolf will want Sparxie and not want Yao Guang in her team. Now, rather than using future info alone to deduce this, we can also just look at their actual kits and come to the same conclusion. And it's all thanks to Sparxie and her team. Right now, with the units we have available, the core team looks like this. Main DPS Sparxie, Yao Guang, Sparkle, and a Sustain. And to be fair, it's already a very solid team. However, as some people have pointed out, if Sparxie is supposed to be a sub DPS, then how the hell are we fitting a main DPS Silverwolf on the team? Someone has to get kicked. It's obviously not going to be the Sustain, and Sparxie needs Sparkle. So, the only one left is Yao Guang. Now initially, that made absolutely zero sense to me. I believed that Sparkle would be the one getting the boot. However, there were two lingering questions that bothered me. One, how can an SP-related main DPS even function when Sparxie is eating up all the SP? It's like running Imbibe Lune and Sparxie together in Currency Wars, where both units are fighting over SP and the team just feels kinda bad to play. And second, why would Yao Guang be the one getting kicked out? It makes zero sense, as Yao Guang should be the universal Elation support with her kit. But with the information we got earlier, the answer now is pretty clear. Silverwolf doesn't just want Elation amps, she specifically wants punchline. And right now, there's only really one punchline generator in the game, and that's Sparxie. Now, for that to work, Silverwolf likely doesn't consume much SP herself. Instead, she relies on her teammates to generate and spend it, thus generating punchline in the process due to Sparxie's kit. And of course, Sparkle provides SP to Sparxie. It's a perfectly synergistic team. So the flow is Sparkle battery Sparxie, and then Sparxie battery Silverwolf. On the other hand, if Yao Guang were to be in Sparkle's spot, well, she'd be pretty awful. Firstly, Yao Guang can't really generate real punchline to save her life. She's making like 6 per Elation skill. And secondly, getting more Elation skills via her ult isn't actually that impactful depending on what the skill is. Like for Sparxie, it's nice damage, but nothing that would help battery a main DPS Silverwolf or create real synergy. With this in mind, I do believe Sparxie will be a must-pull for one of the Elation flagships, specifically Silverwolf. However, this line of reasoning leads to a major problem. Doesn't this mean that Silverwolf, a 4.x main push, will be bricked without a specific support? But obviously that can't be the case because the backlash would be insane, especially in 2026. On the other hand, if Silverwolf actually is self-sufficient and can generate her own punchline or consume lots of SP, that would mean Sparxie is completely out of a job. You'd just use Sparkle and Yao Guang at that point as they simply amp more. Now, because neither option makes too much sense, I believe it's actually telling us the direction that Silverwolf's kit is headed. Silverwolf would most likely be functional on her own, but will be exponentially stronger when paired with Sparxie. I'd imagine it's very similar to something like Castrus and Hyacin. In other words, Silverwolf probably would work without her, but Sparxie is what turns her from good to flagship levels of broken. Okay, before we move on to team number 2, I want to quickly talk about who the main push or anniversary unit of 4.2 is likely gonna be. Now, why does this even matter? Well, if 3.2 was anything to go by, the anniversary unit gets tons of attention and support for the team. So if the unit you want ends up being the main push, you're probably eating good. And if not, then you may get the Anox treatment. So is it Silverwolf or Evanescia? Well, from what I've heard in passing, it's probably Silverwolf, who's supposedly getting more spotlight and relevance in the story. And with that in mind, I know some Evanescia watchers may be a little discouraged by this, like she's getting pushed to the side. But in my opinion, it doesn't matter. Whether it's media attention, promotional material, or story focus, it doesn't matter. What actually matters is team support. Now, even if Silverwolf is the main push, both Silverwolf and Evanescia will almost certainly launch with proper and fully supported teams. Speaking of, let's talk about our second Elation flagship. According to Julian, Evanescia's trail team consisted of herself, Yao Guang, Elation MC, and Huohuo. Yes, the same Huohuo that's randomly getting a Nova Flare instead of units like Jinyuan or Imbiber Lune. The Huohuo that's oddly best in slot in Sparxie's current team. Now, we've seen this exact pattern before. We got played in Jingliu buffs during the HP meta. Kafka got hers right before Hyacin. Sparkle receiving a near-perfect rework tailored for Sparxie and the new Elation path. And now suddenly, Huohuo gets a Nova Flare, right as the anniversary Elation units are dropping. Oh, and if you somehow missed it, well, Thela and Firefly are also getting buffs. So yeah, I'm pretty confident that Huohuo is about to be very important for the upcoming meta, in the same way that Sparkle will become a core unit for the first Elation flagship. And once you look at Evanescia's team, it starts making perfect sense. As mentioned earlier, Yao Guang doesn't really belong in an SP Hunger team, even if she is an Universal-esque Elation support. But this other team, it's clearly pushing something different. With Huohuo being in said trial team, it's pretty obvious that ults will matter a lot, something that Huohuo will excel at enabling. Now, if I had to assume, I'd bet this team focuses on Elation skills, with Yao Guang basically being the enabler of the team. And the plan would look something like this. Huohuo batters Yao Guang's ultimate, Yao Guang converts that into extra Elation skills, and finally, Evanescia finishes it off with a massive Elation nuke. Then you'd just rinse and repeat. Moving on, if we zoom out a bit and look at the timing of things, it also makes this theory make a lot of sense. As mentioned earlier, Silverwolf's team is likely centered around Sparxie and Sparkle, and once you lock that in, there really isn't much room for another support. At the same time, heading into 4.2, we just happen to have Elation MC that would likely drop, Yao Guang who's currently homeless, and Huohuo who's set to receive a Nova Flare, someone who is currently also Sparxie's best in slot. So yeah, I wonder what that could mean for Evanescia. Based on everything we've covered, I don't believe Elation is designed around a mono team like Remembrance was. Instead, it looks like it'll focus on synergistic units that focus on a playstyle rather than path. And that really makes me excited. Even now, I see a lot of people writing Elation off as a flop or skippable path. Now, I don't really have an issue with people skipping it, as it's no different than me skipping Dot. However, what I don't like is the reason why they're choosing to skip. From what I've seen, a lot of it boils down to the frustration that the Remembrance path caused, and thus it's like a form of protest against something that may or may not happen again. But based on information provided right now, Elation looks fundamentally different in how it's being structured. And honestly, that makes me so freaking happy. In a previous video of mine, I talked about wanting Elation to move in this exact direction. As for the future, I really hope that Elation expands to different archetypes, so it's not just Remembrance 2.0 again. And if the current signs are anything to go by, that's exactly what they're doing. So hell yeah. Moving on, let's quickly summarize what I believe to be the future team comps. Starting with the first Elation flagship, the SP Fiends, it'll likely be DPS Silverwolf, Sparxie, Sparkle, and lastly a Sustain. This team would focus on consuming SP to battery a DPS Silverwolf. Now, there's also a more accessible variation of this team with the currently available units. Main DPS Sparxie, Yao Guang, Sparkle, and lastly a Sustain. Now, this is a pretty solid team, but in my opinion, it'll likely not scale too well as a lot of the budget for Sparxie's kit went to her amping capabilities rather than raw multipliers. It definitely works, but we're really looking for that main DPS. As for the second flagship, the Elation scalers, it may be Evanescia, Yao Guang, Elation MC, and a Sustain. Now, the really interesting part here is the Sustain slot. As mentioned earlier, Ho is receiving a buff, and if that holds true, she'll likely slot straight into one of these teams, most likely Evanescia's. With that in mind, if we get another Elation unit after these flagships, it'll likely be either a dedicated Elation Sustain that can slot into both teams, or a replacement unit that eventually upgrades from Elation MC, similar to how Fugue replaced Harmony MC. With this framework in mind, I hope these in-theory teams can help you decide on who to pull. Again, this is all speculation and from things I've heard passing by, so do take it with a grain of salt. Still, I do think it's the best chance we have in predicting the future, especially with how future information from now on will be pretty hard to come by. Okay, before we wrap up, I just want to quickly go over some things we don't know yet. Currently, we have absolutely zero information on Blade or Pearl. It was said there may be a preservation and erudition unit in 4.3, but we don't know if it's related. As for Nihilux, we don't know too much, but she may release post 4.3. Speaking of her, I know a lot of people were talking about her model, specifically her face looking a bit off. And as someone else mentioned, zero thought behind those eyes. For the thumbnail, I ended up using a version that was adjusted by someone on Twitter. And honestly, it looks way better. Putting them side by side, it's like a completely different person. Either way, I'm still pulling. The glasses are a 10 out of 10. As for my own plans, I'm planning for Evanescia, which I've prepared by spending all my jades on E1S1 Yao Guang. So yeah, I'm really trusting in this future info by the way. Sadly, I was not Dalway's favorite little cookie, so I'm currently broke as hell. But yeah, hopefully this video helps you plan things out a bit better, because nobody wants to waste jades for no reason. If this has helped you or you enjoyed it, I'd really appreciate a like or a sub. Besides that, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see y'all next time. Peace.